Hello, Andreas. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today's guest is Andreas Mueller Schubert. Andreas is a good friend of the Tourism AI Network and of CIPR Communications. Andreas runs NextGen Wine Marketing in the Napa Valley and is a trailblazing partner of the Tourism AI Network. So it's awesome for me to have you on the show today. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. No, as you said, we are in a very similar area, tourism and lots of visitors, attracting, working with companies. I'm very happy about the partnership that we have.
Excellent. Yeah. So, just to give everybody a bit of a background. So, Andreas and I both belong to WSI, which for those who don't know is a global digital marketing network really focused on helping organizations figure out this whole digital marketing thing. So, I always like to give a little bit of background, a little bit of story. So, WSI started with what they like to famously say 2 PG, which is 2 years pre-Google, and the visionary founder of WSI, Dan Monahan, saw the internet coming and thought, we need to have an organization that's helps small, medium-sized businesses figure out this whole internet thing. And, here we are 25 years later at the cusp of artificial intelligence having a major impact on all businesses and on all of our lives. And, Andreas and I both are participants together on the WSI's AI leadership committee. And both of us have been working very hard to sort of help understand how artificial intelligence can be implemented in the tourism industry. So, a little bit of background just to give folks some context. And then Andreas and I also had the opportunity this summer with our lovely wives to connect in person to talk about areas of mutual interest, areas of overlap, because we both work in tourism, various different ways. And, we've been, getting closer together in terms of, finding ways to work, more collaboratively together to help serve our collective clients. So that is the bit of a background and foundation for this conversation. And so, really I wanted to invite Andreas on the show today to talk a little bit about, AI from the context of his lens, which is really focused on the Napa Valley region largely, but also tourism a little bit more broadly, and a little bit even more narrow focused on sort of the wine and the spirits marketing world. So why don't we start off, Andreas, with just a little bit of, why don't you give yourself a little bit of I guess, a personal story about, your coming into this whole world of AI and where you're.
Yeah. No, so thanks, Peter. And we're 10 years in the business now here in the Napa Valley. My wife and I, we moved from Silicon Valley, where we have been in high tech. I was always fascinated by the power of the internet. That my whole business life I spent in building internet networks and creating applications. And what really fascinated me was the power of changing business models. The internet world has created new business that didn't exist before, and it has really changed the way how we communicate every day. Everyone has a phone that's constantly connected to the internet. So it was one of these moments when a significant technology changed the way how we work, how we live, what we enjoy. And I think that the introduction of AI is another one of these moments, and potentially even more impactful what AI can bring to us as a person, to our businesses. And I think we're getting a little bit to what we saw in science fiction movies. So you're talking to a machine or a screen and you got an answer back about things, suggestions, ideas, what to do. I think this is becoming more and more reality, and this is opening up great opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and I agree with you 100%. And I'm most interested in the last word that you said in everything you said, which is the word opportunities, because I hear and I talk to a lot of people that come at this from a place of fear. And certainly in the media, we hear a lot of these doomsday stories and, the existential threats and all these different things. And those things may or may not come to reality. We don't know. But I think in the short term and for individual businesses, there are a lot of opportunities. And there's sort of a good way to look at it is what are the opportunities here and how can we leverage those opportunities for our businesses? So can you tell me a little bit about, Andreas, just what do you see as some of those opportunities and how businesses might want to, think about leveraging those opportunities?
Yeah, I think what AI is really giving us the opportunity to tap into information, data, but get answers back that are already have some meaning. So it's more than just information. It's actually really a knowledge that you got back. The AI systems have the capability to scroll through data. They learn the large language models. They learn, similar like a human. A human learns by reading things, by looking at things. You got some experience. It's very similar, and you can get some very detailed and good based answers back from AI systems that you as a human then can take and apply to your specific question, to your specific client. I think it's always very important to see AI is providing great input, but you always as a human has to look at this. Does this make sense? Is it something that applies to the problem I like to solve?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And are you as an organization, as a marketing agency, are you guys sort of diving fairly deep into AI use cases for your agency, for your clients? Can you tell me a little bit about where your thinking is at with respect to that?
Yeah, 100% we do it. And I think if you look at the different functions of a company, the sales and marketing, the knowledge working areas, that's where AI can really bring all the benefits today and in the future. And, I think that especially the marketing side is probably one of the areas that can leverage capabilities as much as possible, as it is possible today. So definitely, idea creation, and maybe some assessment of a website, what we do, and these kind of things. Again, AI is really well suited to, assessing data points, looking at all kinds of different information that might be on the internet and coming back with some suggestions. And I think this is, if you really step back, this is a core part of marketing, understanding the market, understanding what's going on with the competition, understanding the opportunity, creating personas, and all these kind of information. AI today can support a lot in these fields.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I find interesting about this whole discussion, especially around marketing and actually sales is an area where I'm particularly interested in it. But, we as marketers often are trying to, sort of take a lot of data and make sense of it. And, these tools just have so much more compute than our brains have ability to take so many more data points into consideration, right? And so, I think that's where the magic can happen for a lot of brands if they can figure out how to, leverage that ability to crunch a lot of data and actually use that to sort of do more predictive type marketing and or analysis of, for example, even things as simple as analysis of customer feedback, right? So I mean, really simple use case of AI is, take all the reviews you have on Google and social media and plug them into an AI tool and say, give me the top 5 or 10 words that are used to describe our brand or our service or whatever. And that's incredible insight that yes, a human can do that, but a tool can do that so much more efficiently and effectively. And then a human can kind of validate, to your point, some of those insights, right?
And I think it's really important. We are still in very early days with AI, but it's already very impressive what the AI systems, and I'm really talking about the generative AI. So if you really step back, AI is a technology that exists since decades. And specifically, it was used by large companies, in the advertising space and other areas. But what really happened about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, when ChatGPT became available for everyone. Suddenly you had this system at your fingertip that can help you to solve these problems. And what this really opens up is the opportunity that the power what in the past, large companies with a lot of money investment could leverage is now in everyone's hand. So it's really important in these early days to get familiar with it, understands its limitations. We have to be very careful. You cannot believe everything that comes back. We still need to put our human mind and understanding and experience on top of it. Does this make sense? Again, I'm sometimes comparing AI to, to sit together with a group of friends and they tell you all these stories and no, this is not true what you're telling me. This is not true what. So you have to do the same. And, sometimes it's good to use different AI systems. You have Bart from Google, you have, ChatGPT, and they come up with different answers. And again, I sometimes I'm carefully say, friend A and friend B have a different background, and they come up with different answers based on what they learned.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a great way to put it. And I always like to equate it to, all of a sudden you have, a team of interns available to you that you never had before for basically, almost no cost. And so,
Yeah.
you can now, to your point, have several different tools or interns analyze the same information and come back with some information, and then you as the human can then take all the inputs and all the data or all the information that these tools are telling you, and really make a really good informed decision. So I mean, I think that's a great example. And I'm curious. Obviously, you have a lot of clients, specifically in the wine industry, but definitely many other industries. But are these conversations coming up with your clients? Are they asking you about AI? What are they kind of saying? What's sort of the industry in the Napa Valley saying about all this?
Yeah. So definitely, and we have been very proactive. We have regular communications with our clients, and when AI really started to get some momentum, I would say late spring, summer last year, it really picked up. We have been very proactive, in trialing it ourselves. I think it's important that you have some experience with the systems, and they're changing very fast. But it's also important to have a clear discussion with our clients. What are we doing, what are we not doing, and keeping them up to date. So with our top clients, we have monthly meetings, and AI is always a topic. AI is changing so fast, and it's really important to be open-minded, to have suggestions. And we absolutely support that some of our clients, they start experimenting themselves using it. They come back to us for some questions, and I think that's what it is at the end. It's really sharing the findings, the knowledge of from a different perspective. And what I like about this WSI network we both belong to, it's and this AI leadership team and the way how it's cultivated, it's actually a collective learning.
Yeah.
And if you have hundreds of people that are looking at the same topic from different angles and share their knowledge, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. I will say that was really the crux of I guess, the genesis of the Tourism AI Network, because at the end of the day, for me, there are many different people in this industry playing with tools, experimenting, trying things. And so the whole purpose of the network isn't to say, Peter and Andreas are AI geniuses and we know everything and, we're going to tell you how to do your job. No, it's absolutely the opposite. It's, hey, we're going to just bring people together, and we're going to have discussions, and we're going to have collaborations, and we're going to learn from each other. And that's really, again, I think that I took inspiration from really the collaborative approach of the WSI network, and said, I think that's needed here in the tourism industry around this whole AI topic. And one of the things I've realized in spending a lot of time learning about this space and listening to podcasts and reading as much as I possibly can, is that there are very few true AI experts out there in the world. And even the people who are literally inventing the machines that are doing the things will tell you that they themselves don't know necessarily why and how the machines do what they do. So we're all in it together, right? We're all sort of in the same starting point.
Yeah. And it brings me back to the moments when the internet was born.
Yeah.
When you look at the very first websites at that time, or the very first applications, it wasn't really usable, but you started playing with it. And today we watch TV over the internet. We are on the internet right now, so it's so much ingrained in our daily life, and this is what's going to happen with AI as well. And I think this learning and sharing best practices, sharing ideas, educating each other, I think that's what makes a difference in these times.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, for sure. And so I guess to that point, I know you're speaking, I think next week or the week after. You're speaking pretty soon in the Napa Valley. So obviously you're out there talking to your community about that. And tell us a little bit about your upcoming presentation, and again, some of the themes and some of the topics that you kind of are generally talking about with folks.
So I regularly have these kind of webinars with the local chambers here, and what really is important, you have, every business now knows AI will have some impact, positive or negative. As you said, in the press, there's sometimes a lot of negative statements, and people, they have a fear. What does it mean for me as a person? What does it mean for my business that I have? And it's really important to understand what AI is about, in, I always call it in non-technical terms. You need to understand what AI can do, what are the limitations, and what are potential applications that make sense at this point in time. I always recommend and show some of the initial things everyone can do. ChatGPT is available for everyone. You can just start using it, and maybe to get a recipe for chicken biryani or something like this is just to get used to it, to understand what is the power. And then when the more you're going to use it, the more you're going to start thinking about your business. You're going to start thinking about your job. How can I use this great tool now that helps me to do a better job? And I think this is what this is all about, really understanding the capability where AI can assist in my job, whatever it is. Am I a destination marketing company, try to attract visitors? Am I in a winery, working on getting more visitors into the tasting room? All these different applications, and what you will do at the end, it's about getting a feeling how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really, really important point, and one I definitely stress on people all the time. So, I always tell number one, just try the tools, right? I mean, again, to your point, if you're in the wine industry, how about just like ask ChatGPT what wine might pair with what food, see what it comes out with, see if you agree, right? It may or not be right, but at least it'll give you some sense of sort of how it works, and how to kind of work with it. And you can try different prompts and shorter prompts and longer prompts and see what and so really this is I think it's sort of an experimentation phase that we're in. And I think obviously these use cases are getting more and more sort of figured out by people, and there's lots of resources out there. But really, I think for people, unless they try it themselves first, they can't really come at it and have a sort of the right conversation about it, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, you brought up a very important point, Peter, the prompts. The prompts are actually smart questions. You don't, even if you have a communication with your boss or with your friend, if you are able to really ask good questions, you get a lot of information back. And I think this is a discipline you need to learn.
Yes.
The tool doesn't know what's in your head.
Right.
The question expresses it. And the better you formulate the question and give guidance to the tool, to AI, what you are expecting as an answer, the better the answer will be. So playing with it and learning these kind of style of asking the questions or having a meaningful communication. It's called chat for a reason. You're talking to AI, and AI will give you answers. You can get the answer getting better and better and better depending on what you put into the system.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And from my own experience, I can tell you, Andreas, that my prompts now sometimes are like 1,000 words. I literally will write 1,000 words, and say, turn this into a well-written press release, and I give all the details and all the context. And the more I write in the prompt, the more detailed my prompt, the more pretty much it comes out almost perfect the first time, right? Versus sort of you just put a little bit and you expect a lot. It's just not going to happen that way. I'm a little bit curious as you're having your conversation. It's something that, so I've been out like you presenting and speaking to a lot of different audiences about AI and tourism, and not only tourism, but other sectors as well. And the number one question I always ask when I start is, how many people here use, generative AI tools? And, usually depends on the crowd. I've had one crowd, I've had everybody raise their hand. One crowd, I've had, 20, 30% of people raise their hand. Second question I have is, how many people's companies have AI use policies, give you guidance on how you can use, who can use AI, which tools? So I'm just curious from your perspective, are you having conversations with, are you hearing about or having conversations about sort of corporate policies when it comes to AI use, and where's that conversation at?
So definitely people are starting to use it more. Half a year, 9 months back, it was very, very new. Everyone was talking about. So I definitely feel that people, and we are mainly talking to marketing people, business people, see that the usage and the experimenting with AI is picking up, which is 100% the right thing. I also feel, and this is a feeling, that the businesses as a business don't really know in detail what's being done. And AI is used in a lot of cases, and we use it maybe in the private life. We're going to use it in business because we get used to it. But I don't think that there is consistently regulations around this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the policies are coming in. So one of my recommendations out of my talks is create an AI policy.
Yeah.
Start to put the frame around this. What can be used? Where are the limitations? And where it shouldn't be used? And I think that's definitely a very high recommendation around the privacy. There's all kinds of issues. We need to be a little bit careful also what AI gives us back as an answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is not per se the truth.
Right.
It needs to be filtered. It needs to be looked at. As I said, you have maybe another friend, AI friend that you're going to ask, you're going to get a different answer.
Yeah.
And that's really important to put a frame around this.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. So, I mean, I always give kind of recommendations to businesses I talk to. Number one, is just start to have conversations in your team about AI. I mean, like that's number one. It's just, what does your organization believe about this technology? How are you approaching it, right? And that becomes the foundation for probably the implementation or development of policies, right? Number two is, you know, go to workshops, go to sessions, get some education, right? Ask the people on your team who's raising their hand to be sort of a champion of this technology, and send those people in for some training, right? And or education, or get them sort of give them some space and time to learn a little bit more and bring that to your team. Number three, I always tell companies is create a committee or an AI council of some kind, or again, a place to have these conversations and to talk about things that you're testing and experimenting and that kind of thing. And then from there, this is kind of through the Tourism AI Network and through our WSI network is, we can then at sort of a number 4 step, I think when companies are ready is come forward with some kind of, I guess, base case, or sort of, where are you at today, sort of, right? And then that can help springboard and have a conversation about a roadmap about where you're going. So, that's what I always tell customers and people. Is that sort of consistent with what you're telling people as well?
100%. I think the biggest mistake a management or owners of a company can do is ignore AI. AI is not going away. And ignoring the fears that people might have about their job, because everyone hears all kinds of story, and the media likes typically to pick up these kind of stories and steer the pot a little bit. So that's the worst thing. You have to talk about it, and you have to look at it. As a business owner, yes, you need to understand how AI might gonna threaten your business in specific areas. You also need to understand the opportunity. It's really both sides, and both needs to be discussed, and both needs to be openly discussed with a team, and also be framed in saying this is what we do about it and this is what we don't do about it. And this is where the policy comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, 100% alignment. And I think that's, if people take anything out of this conversation from a sort of, I guess, advice perspective, is start having these conversations, because they're critical, right? I mean, it's interesting because I feel like the internet came, as we discussed earlier in this podcast, and I think at that time, technology, communication, the tools were different. And so I think the way people were having those conversations were different. And I think now we're sort of having that experience, having the tools, it's now very different again, right? And I think now, and generative AI compared to sort of the World Wide Web and internet is much more user friendly. It's much more accessible to people. So it's a very different kind of innovation and technology. Now all of a sudden, anybody, you don't need much code or sort of technical background to be able to use one of these tools to be an absolute superstar, right? So I think from that perspective, it's going to come faster, and it's going to be more widespread than maybe the adoption of the internet 25 years ago.
And I think this is really where the Tourism AI Network kicks in, because it's coming so fast, it's easy to use. It's also now, let's learn by sharing, because everyone can do something, and let's have a trusted source of information where you can go back and understand what's going on. And AI is, we said it before, it's still very early days. We don't know how it looks like in 1 year, but the train left the station.
That's right.
And this is, we need to stay with the train to understand what's happening. And I think that's where these collaborative learning is really making a difference.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And I think that a lot of people find it frustrating. There's a lot of hype, obviously, and so I think a lot of business people find it frustrating because they don't understand, you know, it's like, okay, what's in it for me? Or okay, how do I leverage this today to get the most advantage or whatever? And that is a very valid question and a part of the conversation. But I think there's also a bit of a longer term perspective to have on it and a bit of a, it's moving fast and we got to move fast, but we also got to slow down to some extent and think thoughtfully and strategically and sort of methodically about sort of how to implement it.
And I think one thing that we see in the market, and we have been a little bit careful of buying AI tools, investing in
Yes.
all of this, it's so fast moving, and there is the opportunity to start using it for free, more or less. If you use ChatGPT or Bard, they're actually getting more into the tools and the way how we use search or other things. They will become part of it, but it's
Yeah.
also, I sometimes think there's not one answer that fits everyone.
Right.
You really need to explore what fits in a specific situation for a specific, application that someone is trying to address. And this exploration creates actually a little bit of uncertainty. And that's
Yeah.
normal in these crazy early days. That's where, sharing information and, have you tried this? Have you done this? That's what makes the difference.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, no, and we're really in this interesting kind of point of to your point, experimentation. And what I kind of told my team is, I think we need to not worry about the tools as much as we need to worry about the use cases, the problems we want to solve, and the processes we want to improve. So, it's like, if we can kind of align and create, more aligned and improved processes around efficiency, better outcomes, blah, 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 problems we want to solve. And then, we can insert the tool or take out the tool based on how the tools are evolving.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be a much easier discussion, right? So I've kind of crudely kind of told my team that it's sort of like, we're making some sausage, and along the production line of making sausage, we're going to put some spices in, we're going to put some different meats in, we're going to try some different things, and it's going to come out with sausage at the end or whatever. And so, let's just think about this as a progression of the process of making sausage along the way and the different outputs and inputs that we sort of have. And we'll taste the sausage at the end, and and hopefully it's good, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
It's still a sausage at the end. So
it's still a sausage, right?
I think what's really important for business is, what is my sausage? What
right.
makes me special?
Yes.
And really think around your core business process, and now think, how can AI help me to become better in my core business process?
Yes.
And that's, again, there's lots of tools and everything, but it needs to fit to this core business process. And when you talked about this tourism AI network, about the idea, now we're talking about specific sausages.
Yes.
And now we have several sausage makers, to stay with the example, that share how they do their process, which are similar for destination marketing companies and others.
Right.
How can they share?
That's right.
Experience?
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. And just to that point, because I'm actually having a conversation after this one with one of my clients where we're talking about exactly that. And so I'm going to give just to give people some context and make this real for people. But, I have a destination marketing organization client, and that client met with me, went through a bit of a process around sort of understanding, where AI might fit into their business. And they basically said, look, we produce these reports for our funding partners, our provincial in Canada funding partners, 2 times a year. And those reports take us 50 to 60 hours every time we create them. And, they said, we're all destination marketers. We love marketing. We don't love putting reports together. So if you can solve this problem, that would be a valuable thing for you to do. And so actually I'm meeting with my client right after this to say, I have an approach that we can use to basically automate your process for you and smartly automate your process, where basically the outcome will be, or the output will be, an online form that gets filled out. You just fill in the blanks, and then branded, report to government comes out basically saying, here's how we used your money. And I could tell you that I've now talked to about 10 different DMOs about this concept, and every single one of them said, when can I buy it? How quickly can I buy it? Where do I line up? Right. And so I think we're onto something in terms of a great use case of, for a DMO where, we can free up now their resources to be able to do the things they love doing more, and using their creativity to figure out how to get more people to the destination. So they're not spending as much time, doing important work, which is to, let their funders know how their money has been spent. So I don't want to discount the importance of that work, but if we could take that process down and make it a lot more efficient, now we can be more effective in the work we want to be doing, right?
And I think this is a perfect example. If I remember correctly, you had discussions with your client to identify where could be potential AI use cases. I know that within the WSI network, we have built a framework to do an assessment about finding these use cases. And that's, I think, that's the discussion we want to have. Because now you can identify a very unique situation that exists in the destination marketing organizations that AI can help to address pretty consistently across different clients.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. And that's the goal here, right? Can we make something that's repeatable? Essentially something we can bring to every destination, organization really across North America, with some tweaks, because every state or province will have some slight differences, but we can incorporate those differences in and really make something good happen. So yeah, and I just wanted to again provide that as a bit of an example to make it real for people, right? So awesome. So I guess we're coming up on the end of our podcast. Before we go, do you have any kind of personal insights or anything that you found kind of surprising, or sort of any kind of insight that sort of you want to share with everybody before we sign off around sort of generative AI?
Yeah, what is very, very unique for me is how quickly after ChatGPT became available, how quickly the adoption was. Which technology today, with the internet being available so widely, adoption can be very fast. But this was super fast.
Yeah.
And it shows to me that there is a great demand, and people really were looking for something like this. And as I said, AI existed since decades, but it wasn't available for everyone. So I think the availability and having a chance to explore the system, that was a little bit a positive surprise. I have to say a positive surprise, but wow, this was super fast.
It was. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I listened to a podcast interview with Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, just yesterday, and he said exactly what you said. He said, we didn't even think that ChatGPT 3.5 was really that good. And then all of a sudden the whole world just took off, and it exploded, and everybody started using it. And so, there was a very pleasant thing for them, obviously. And so now they're quickly trying to sort of adopt it and get it even more useful. And I think there's some amazing things happening. Excellent. Well, thank you, Andreas. I really appreciate your insights here. I really appreciate your time, and best of luck with your presentations on AI. And thank you for the work you're doing, bringing artificial intelligence conversations to the Napa Valley and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Tourism AI podcast. To learn more about the network or get involved, visit our website at tourismainetwork.com or find us on socials at Tourism AI Network. We'll see you there.